Okay.
Okie.
Okie.
Okay.
Okie.
Okie and welcome.
We acknowledge that we're gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains.
We pay respect to the Blackfoot people's past.
Present.
We recognize the thousands of Indigenous people
From many diverse nations,
All left first home.
including members of the Blackfoot Confederacy,
the 6 gates.
Ashana.
Siksika.
I'm stopping people.
as well as other First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. We respect Indigenous peoples' cultural heritage,
Beliefs
Truth.
and relationship to the land.
It stretches back in time.
We will not blink at history.
We will not blink at history.
And we will learn from it.
Okie is an invitation.
A step forward.
Blackfoot. Okay means hello.
Oki means hello.
Hello. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And welcome to the lands of the Blackfoot people.
Okay, and welcome to our little show tonight. I'm going to try and pronounce it again, and then I'll get like an expert to actually pronounce it. Here's the way I think it is. Our show is called Aakitaapitsinikotsio'pa, which means a sacred place to share our genuine stories. Sister Annette, do you want to correct me? Am I getting closer?
Aakitaapitsinikotsio'pa.
Okay. I'm evaluating that I'm getting closer. I think in another 5 or 6 years, I'll have it perfect, I think.
Yes.
So
Yes.
good to see you. Looking forward to hearing about Chicago, your journey there, your trip there. That is awesome. And I understand you're going to take a break from doing this show for a bit until the fall. That's what yeah, great.
Yeah.
Grandma duties are just too extensive right now. You have no time for this kind of stuff.
Yeah. I'm preparing for a summer course too. So yeah.
Summer course?
Yeah.
What does that mean, Annette? What does a summer course mean?
Oh, I'm teaching at the university for the summer. So I'm just going to be preparing my course and making sure that I'm ready for that, as well as wrapping up my work for the summer. So I'll have a lot of things on the go in June. Yeah.
What course? Do you want to talk about the course you're teaching?
It's for masters. Masters. Any teachers who are going to do their masters, whether it's in leadership or any type of education, the education fields.
Okay.
This is a prerequisite for them to receive a certification, leadership certification. So if they wanted to become principals or associate principals in their schools, they have to have this little card that says they've gone through the course. So yeah.
And have you been a professor for this course previously?
Yeah, once. It's new. It's only been offered 3 times in the summer from the U of L. So I taught it in the first year, and then Don Burley, Dr. Don Burley from the U of L taught it last year, and so they invited me to teach it again this year. So
beautiful, yeah. Beautiful. Well, that's exciting. Yeah, and we haven't seen.
Annette, does that have to do with the LQS?
Yes. Yeah. Leadership quality standard. Yeah. So the leadership quality standard for principals is a little bit different than that from teachers, the teacher quality standard, but both have the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit component to it. So everyone has to have that as part of their professional growth and development. Yeah.
So all your students, oh, sorry, TJ, go ahead. What were you saying?
How long is the course?
It's 3 weeks for 3 hours each day, Monday to Friday. So, yeah.
So would it be true then that all of your students would be Indigenous students then? Would that be, no, that's not true. But if they're going to be in front of an Indigenous classroom is the idea that, okay. No. All right.
Just to be a principal in Alberta, you have to have that now. So
got it.
the leadership quality standard, you have to, and because it's a master's program, just assuming that most teachers who are taking masters are on the journey to become leaders, instructional leaders in their schools. So this is part of that. Yeah, it just came up, what, TJ, about 3 years ago, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And do you love your role as a professor? Do you enjoy that environment?
Well, I'm a very I see everyone as having their own understanding and their perspective and what they bring to that. So it's really just trying to draw out that. So sometimes I feel like I've done a good job with drawing that out from people, and sometimes I feel like I've fallen flat on my face. But you know what? That really takes away each individual's journey themselves. So what they're bringing to the table, what they're seeking, is what they put in is what they'll get out, I think. So I think
definitely it's an exchange that's occurring, right? And it's there. Both parties have to be committed to that to make it work, right? That's a fact.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, and this one is local. When we started developing it, I was on a team with Darn Burley, Dr. Carmen Mombriquette, and Lisa Croshoe from Begunny. She's the director of education there. And so we wanted to make it local. So it's Blackfoot. So if you went to Edmonton, if you went to Calgary, it might be different. But here, because we're the University of Lethbridge, really tried to focus on having a Blackfoot. So it has a Blackfoot name. And so the resource that I draw upon is Dr. Betty Bastien's book, Blackfoot Ways of Knowing. And so I really use that one a lot. Yeah. And then there's another one on treaty. People didn't really talk too much about treaty and Indigenous knowledge when it came to treaty until Treaty 7, until the people who really started studying Treaty 7 started bringing in elders. So then it really became something that you have that historical information and knowledge that was passed down. So that oral storytelling, I guess, of the treaty really came about from Treaty 7 and then others. So I really try and draw that on, because part of the TQS and LQS is knowing about treaties. And so trying to get that understanding from the Blackfoot way, or the Blackfoot perspective. The people who translated the treaty didn't even really speak Blackfoot. And when you have this very legal document that you're trying to translate in 1877, it really doesn't make sense. But also, when we look at that, the treaty was signed in 1877, but the Indian Act was legislated in 1876. So from the government, there really was not that due process to
the treaty didn't matter. It was after the fact. It was all done already. Yeah.
So it was very not, maybe even not legal for the government to be entering into that. But I mean, as we continue down this journey, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a treaty lawyer. I'm not an expert at all. There are many who are that, but just trying to give that understanding to future principals that they have at least an awareness, if not a full understanding and awareness of what it means today for us as treaty people, as Indigenous people. So we have to look at agreements and treaties. Looking at residential school is another component of the LQS and the TQS. So,
sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, tell the story, tell the history in accurate terms. Here's what actually happened, right? It's not the white guys saving these savages from themselves, right? That's the narrative I was taught in school, right? That's the way it was taught to me, but that's obviously not the case. And so now, starting from the top, that history and is going to be more fulsome, more accurately expressed. Would you agree? Is that what's going to happen too?
Well, just really having an awareness. I don't know if I can really tell an accurate story too, because just from my perspective, but my own understanding has been, I've continued to learn. I'm almost 60 and I'm continuing to learn, and it just blows me away how inaccurate. But at the end of the day, it was the land and the resources that were wanted, right? And
Right.
it remains so. We pay taxes so we can have a police force and legislation passed and whatnot to keep the land and the resources, right? And no one's ever going to let that go, right? And so when we have that understanding, everyone has that understanding because everyone was duped. I mean, when you listen to Murray Sinclair, that, you know, he says that often, that it was both sides that were duped into believing this. But here in the background, it was all about land and resources. So, you know, you attack certain things, you attack the food, you attack the people, and you put them in reserves. And when that doesn't work, you take the children and you put them in residential school. So you attack all those strong values and concepts that Indigenous people had. And this is what we have today. I mean, it's by design what we see today, right? It's not by accident. It's by design to have a broken people. So trying to have that understanding, but also, you know what? We have many strong people that continue to work very hard, not just to educate others, but also to actually do the work, you know, to go into government, to go into courtrooms, to go into whatever it is that they're doing. They've worked very hard to have that their own understanding. And I think that's on both sides. So, you know, land back could be a concept, but it's not just philosophical. It could be real as well. And we're hearing people who are saying that, you know, maybe somebody has a piece of land that they realize was blood land, blood money. And they're saying, how do I give this back to the Indigenous people, right? So I think it can be a real thing. I had the opportunity to meet, along with several grassroots community people, to meet Dr. Suzuki on Saturday. And that's what he said. He said, you know, they came in, any Indigenous community across the world, and it's broken. They wrecked it. It's wrecked now. He said that a few times. He said, we do believe, he does believe it is through Indigenous wisdom and knowledge that maybe we can come back to having a healthy landscape for everyone. So he wanted to come and see the bison. And my daughter, in her own right, is very knowledgeable and very well known across Canada for the work that she has done. So
with bison specifically, your daughter, she's like a bison expert, or?
Well, she's an environmental science expert, yeah. So, but her major passion is grasslands. Grasslands actually capture more carbon than do forests, right? So DJ Deandra. She's on council with Tony. You sent me Tony's picture. She's on council with Tony. Yeah, she's one of the younger council members. So, but she's passionate. Before she was on council, she was the climate change coordinator for Kainai, and you know. But she also went to school for that and has worked very hard. Sits on several boards, national boards across Canada. So, you know, she's very knowledgeable. She has certainly surpassed the work that I tried to do. Mine was, then I went into the classroom and tried to change the world from that perspective. But for her, it's like wanting to change policy, wanting to get right in there. But yeah, through her own right, she's done a wonderful job. Next week, she's actually going to be going to Banff with a group of women. This will be her second time going to Banff, and they're going on a 5-day hike to look for the bison that were released there a few years ago. So she's very passionate about the bison, as are many people. You know, I used to hear the buffalo, education is our new buffalo. I just got a book. I don't know if you got that too, TJ, in the mail. Buffalo is our buffalo. Buffalo is our new buffalo. I mean, you know, the buffalo never left, and how do we get them back? And there is a film that will be put out in 2024 by Tasha Hubbard, and it's called Singing Back the Buffalo, the Rematrication of the buffalo to several indigenous groups. And so the work that's being done there, Dr. Leroy Littlebear, the work that he's doing with the Buffalo Treaty and trying to get them back on their native grasslands. I mean, it's amazing what everyone is doing across North America to get the buffalo back into their communities. But how do you create those paths for them to cross those natural areas that they always did, and not have fences and not have boundaries of provincial, federal, tribal lands, that it's the buffalo land all across. So I think there's more to come, but yeah, I just wanted to make mention of that as well. There are so many people, grassroots people, that are doing so much and working together at very bird's eye view and worm's eye view of that work, so it takes all of that.
Beautiful. Go ahead, TJ, you had a comment. Go ahead.
I just had a question. I want to go back because I was writing frantically. And you said that Dr. Suzuki said that Indigenous wisdom and knowledge, that with Indigenous wisdom and knowledge, that we can bring back the land to, what did you say?
Well, I didn't quote it. I'm sure it was filmed.
I know you didn't quote it, but
no, but he basically said that might be our chance to save the land, but save the people on the land, was the gist of what he said. So
yeah, I just loved how you said it. It was perfect. She said, bring the land back to something, and I missed writing it.
to their indigenous states, I guess, is really what he was saying, that's the only way right now. But I think more people need to, masses of people have to realize that what is happening, we have to put the brakes on. 25 years ago, when I was still at Lethbridge College doing my environmental science renewable resource diploma, I remember my instructor, Stan Clemens, went to the University of Lethbridge. Dr. Suzuki was speaking there, and while I had children, I had a family, I would have loved to go, but there was something happening, I'm sure, with my children. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I didn't make it. But he came back to the classroom the next day, and he started talking about all the points of what Suzuki was saying. And the thing that stood out the most for me from what he relayed back to us as students was, we are in this car traveling 250 miles an hour heading for a brick wall, and all we care about is where we're sitting in this car, and we're not trying to put the brakes on. All we care about is our status as we head for this brick wall. And you see it, you step back and you look at the world today, and that's the case, right? It's not so much saying, hey, let's stop the car. And anyone that does that is a radical and is crazy. And how can we do that? We can't do that. We have fossil fuels. We need that. And, so I'm guilty. I would never point the finger, because there's 4 pointing right back at me. So I'm just as guilty as the next person. And then becoming an educator after that, I always showed nature of things to my students, and I would even dream of Dr. Suzuki in my dreams. But thinking about, where are our children in that car? We've stuffed them in the trunk of that car. We don't even care where they are in that car, as long as we're sitting on the driver's seat or the passenger seat or on the back seat, whatever that looks like.
It seems like a lot of the whole, environmental problems could be solved with a whole bunch of carbon sequestering. Is that what it's called? Sequestering carbon. And that's just basically, a lot of that is just crop diversity, right? And getting away from like monocrop type cultures, right? Is my understanding that solves a lot of that problem.
Well, in our own community of Kainai, our economic base is agriculture, is cattle ranching, is oil and gas. So we really don't have those environmental processes within our own community to keep our grasslands alive and thriving. And now we're facing another drought. I look at the water. We're not capturing even the water, you know, having those creeks and those coulees that hold the water. We've cut down all the native vegetation, including the willows. The willows are really big, important species.
Stabilizers.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
It stabilizes the soil and it keeps the water within that table. So we're losing that. So, you know, I just don't know the awareness that's there. No, that's only small, right? It's a very local, but if we all did something locally, right, would it make a difference? I don't know, right? I don't know. I've seen a lot of talk. I do read a lot about environmental issues, and that's my background. And I've never really, I'm very proud that my daughter has followed that. She was going to have another career, but that's the career that she chose. And, you know, in my own learning when I was in school, everything that I was learning, I'd be like, okay, guys, we're going on a field trip. We're going out here. Look at this. What's that? And that and that. And that was wanting to make sure that my family was aware of all of these things as well, that I couldn't just learn in isolation, that it had to be, I had to share it with anybody and everybody who would listen. So, and so I think that really does fall to many people. I'm not the only one, and there's nothing special about me, because I know a lot of people do that as well. And especially when you're connected to land, you know, you have that.
I think TJ has a rebuttal she wants to share with you. But
Not
I think
true. Not true. You are special. Every single one of us has a speciality about us. And so I just wanted to make that self-correction, because we are our worst best enemies.
definitely.
So I
And
just
you know
want
what?
you to know that I love you, and you are special, and you are making a difference, and you've made a powerful difference in my life.
Thank you.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
You know, when you're talking about, you know, if we did things locally, what we could do here locally, and would it make a difference? It sure would make a difference for us to try, wouldn't it? Like when you know, when you're trying to do the right thing, you're trying to help even if it seems like a very small step, if it's in the right direction, if it's with love that you're trying to make a difference here, you know, that's it's good for you. Even if it doesn't, even if there's not a tangible benefit anybody can see, it's good for you, right? To make that to try, right? So
that's true. So thank you. Like, I mean, there are many people who are doing work in the environmental movement and trying to bring that awareness. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say, that I know there are a lot of people, but again, I think just that mass evolution, de-evolution, revolution, whatever you want to call it. I think that's, but we are probably going to be pushed to that. I mean, someone was saying, when I sit in the sun now, it's so hot. I never saw that as a child. And me too. I get into my vehicle and I'm burning up. So
I have to share a story. So my sunglasses, while I was working today, my sunglasses were on the dash of the car, and I didn't even think anything of it. I got in the car and I put them on, and they were like literally sizzling my face. Like, I don't ever remember that 10 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. So I think that awareness is so important, but I think we have to come to a place of, as you know, as you may have heard, praxis, where the action and the words are the same. It's not just words, and it's not action without thoughts. It's praxis. It has to happen, and so how do we continue to do that, and how do we become open to that, and what does it mean for us? So yeah, I'm not very good at gardening. I don't have that passion for gardening, but I have a son who does that and tries and tries and tries. He hasn't hit that spot yet, but he just every year he tries to have a garden, and so I think it's important that we each do our thing, and our children are watching us, whether we know this or not or aware of that. Our children are watching us, but our children also have their own. They're going to have their own cross to carry, if you will, right, when it comes to the environment, and they are speaking up, and they are saying, think about us, think about the land, and it's up to us to hear that and do something.
So, Ned, I was going to share when you were talking about all of colonization was all about land and resources, right? Taking land and resources and regarding whoever was there as non-people that you could do whatever the hell you wanted with, right? That's kind of the long and the short of it. And so, yes, here's what I was getting at. I read this book, Community Healing. I just read it. It's a really good book. Have you heard of it before?
No, I can't say I have, and maybe I have in passing. And I was like, oh, I'd like to read that, and I never wrote it down. So
yeah,
thank you.
It was a really good book. I loved it. And in there, she talks about that, this approach, a colonizer approach of doing exactly what Indigenous people in Canada experience, right? Where, take away their resources, put them on the shitty land, take away their kids, break, like that kind of a thing. And then she had said, in a couple other Indigenous things, said, well, this clan, or this tribe, you'll never hear of them because this worked, right? 2 generations, they were gone, right? The kids, you can't even remember the name of this Indigenous group, right? And that is clearly, what, our first prime minister wanted. That was his wish, that is exactly where it would be. And I'm sure he would roll over in his grave to see the Blackfoot people here, strong and resilient, and making a comeback here. I think it's amazing, the resilience of the Indigenous people. I often kind of have the scenario review it myself. If I, as a 5-year-old, got taken away from my mother and father, what my family, what my life would have looked like, and it would have been markedly different. It would have been a very, very tough existence. And in a similar way, having kids taken away from parents, man, those parents, I'm sure some of them, they just rolled up and died. I'm done, I'm out, right? Oh, what's that? Community Healing. Yes, that's the one. Really
nice. That looks good.
Yeah, it's an excellent book.
Yeah, it's Community Healing, a transcultural model. And then the quote at the bottom from Dr. looks like Claudette Lewis. She says, this book has the potential to change social work practice in Indigenous communities.
One thing that I love about it, it's a really common sense and logical approach. If you think of adults who have experienced trauma as a child, when they experienced that trauma, they were left with the belief that there's something wrong with them. They're broken. They're unlovable. They're not a lovable human being, basically. And so if they maintain that thought for the rest of their life, everything becomes harder. Relationships become harder. Just taking care of yourself, loving yourself, all those things become harder, right? So her start is, she says, here we start that I love me. We need to get from I hate me to I love me. So here's where we start. And we do that on the individual level. Then we do it at a bigger level. And then we do it at a bigger level, right? And so that's kind of their approach. And to me, that makes a lot of sense, right? And I can't see any way you could go any harm by encouraging and saying, hey, you've had a lot of terrible, horrible things happen in your life. None of those in any way denigrated any of your value. You're 100% human. You always were, always will be. And what do you need now to move forward, right? How can we, how can we help, right? So
yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
Where you're gone with that, Alan, totally resonates for me. I have a mentor in Saskatchewan she's been teaching this for generations.
Yes.
She teaches it in such tiny pockets. I don't think it's big enough for me anyways.
Right.
But, she says that. She says, we are absolutely enough. We are absolutely whole, just as we are. And as long as we continue to realize that our time on earth is merely an earthly walk, and that we're meant to learn the lessons that we're meant to learn along the way, and that we're not broken, we just have some lessons to learn in different capacities.
Definitely. Yeah, 100%. And if that's the approach that we're going to have with every human being that we encounter, that, they're where they are and we want to help them on whatever step they got to take next, if we can, you got to protect yourself, you got to look after yourself. But if you're in a position that you can be of value to somebody else right there, right then, even if it's just saying hi, even if it's, how are you? Okay, how's your day, buddy? You know, that kind of a thing. That's a value, right? So I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
You're, for whatever reason, your Facebook videos thing you sent, it just kind of keeps on spinning. I don't know why it's not loading.
Okay.
Do you want to try loading it from your side and sharing it from your side?
I don't have it open, and I know we only have a minute or so, but it's from the Field Museum. Okay. And they have like a living exhibit that they just opened of North American Indigenous people. Okay. And they're doing work around repatriating many of the artifacts and specimens that were brought there in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and later. And so they opened this exhibit and included Indigenous voice today, and the headdress that the elder had restored is on display there. It's a small display, but we went in on the long weekend. There were 4 Blackfoot women, and we did the posting dance to open up that exhibit as well. There were others that did other speeches and ceremony and things to open up the exhibit, but that was our contribution as Blackfoot people, to have the woman stand-up headdress, do a posting dance, and there is the headdress that is there now. So there is work that is happening with the Blackfoot people in the Field Museum, and I'll just put it like that. You're more than welcome to go in and look. They have a Facebook page, and that's where the video that I sent you, Ellen, is on. So it's just showing the posting dance that we did on that day. And so for me, it was a highlight of May to be able to go there. But the work that was done in March and the conversations we had with the Field Museum staff, the conservationists, was really enlightening and refreshing to see that many people are on that journey to say it's still alive. Your way of knowing, doing, and being is still very much alive. And that's what the museum is saying. You're still using these. They're not dead. Those practices, those ways are not dead. And we want to give them back because, they're not dead. They would have never been sold. And so lots of conversations around that. And, we can come back and visit that in the fall if you'd like to. Yeah.
Beautiful. And I will watch that video and I will share it when I get it to play. I don't know why. It's just doing the spinny thing. So Sister Google doesn't like it for some reason. Hey, I got an idea, Annette. If you want to write a letter, I have a great idea. You should write a letter to our Prime Minister. And you can say, I know how we can solve our relations between white and Indigenous people. It was all about land. We took the land and then moved them off and if we wanted their land because it was better hunting, whatever, we just push them off to another place, take that land. So how about we just do this? All of the national parks, we just say, these are now Indigenous owned. You guys run them, figure it out. Whatever you want to do, it's yours. And then would take the best lands, give it to the Indigenous people to make reparation for taking the best land previously. What do you think? That might be a good plan.
Yeah, but like I said, there's a lot of people that are there and that would fight to the death if that were to happen.
True.
And they would vote out that prime minister. So that's probably true. But yeah, certainly I'm sure he's heard that. I'm sure he's heard many, many ways to give the land back. But there are people, look at the resistance that happened.
When are you running for prime minister?
I probably 2032. Yeah.
2032. That's the year.
Gotta be before then. You've got a mass group running already behind you.
My daughter would probably not be too happy. I'm sure she wants to run for prime minister. So I'm behind my daughter, just so you know.
Well, then tell DJ to get on it. Let's rally the troops already. That's awesome. It's so good to hear your laughter. So good to see you, Alan. Thank you for holding the space. And yes. I don't know what it is about tonight, but man, I just took copious notes tonight as I sit and listen because I'm just a student as well.
Well, TJ, I don't know if you noticed, I've never seen Annette so enlivened. So, oh my goodness, she was rolling tonight. She was very expressive. This is great.
And you should have been, Annette, if you'd have come on 5 minutes earlier, you could have danced with us. Because Alan was acapelling it and I was just grooving in the background. Great.
Yeah, I was telling TJ, I'm kind of in love with some Sawyer Brown songs right now, so I'm having a lot of fun with those. So.
That's so awesome.
Nice,
So awesome.
nice, nice.
Hey, Annette,
Well,
thanks
I'll miss
very
you
much.
guys.
And TJ, thanks very much. And so we're going to park this until the fall is the plan. Is that right?
I think we should do one more just to bring people's awareness to National Indigenous Peoples Month, National Indigenous Peoples Day, you know, just a couple of those things. Get one done in June, plant those seeds, and then take our hiatus till the fall.
So, Annette, do you want to be part of that, or you want just TJ and I to proceed with that? What would you like?
Well, go ahead. Keep sending me the links, but I know TJ has a lot of that background too, that she could certainly share that. I'd love
Oh, but
to.
it's so much fun when you're here.
I'll be here. I'll be here. But I know TJ could lead that. She has links and she's done teaching around that. So I'd love for TJ to lead us on that one, on that journey.
Okay. We'll go next week. We'll send the link out next week, and then if you can join us, join us. Other than that, TJ will be leading things. And also, I was going to tell you too, I heard through the Calgary folks, I hang out with some Blackfoot people at the Calgary Aboriginal Friendship Center. And Frida sent a thing that on tomorrow, it's a honoring Mother Earth Day with Elder Dakota. So is May 31st a special like Indigenous Day, or that's just the day they're celebrating?
Every day is an Indigenous Day.
Right? Right? Thank you. That's the best answer I've ever heard.
That was really good, man. She's on fire tonight. Oh my goodness. I don't even know if we should quit. We should just keep going. No, we're going to get together next week. Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. And you know what? Also, Annette, even if you don't have time for this, but you have your daughter or other people that want to come on here. I was trying to get Tony Delaney to come on here because, as you know, probably he's got his Eagle Feather thing Eagle Feather initiative. I'll call it that he's getting into police stations and courtrooms where an Indigenous person can, pledge on the feather instead of the Bible, which if that means nothing to them, what value is that to them? Right. So,
yeah. No.
So I think that's a beautiful initiative.
So
what's that?
I have a story about that too, but my daughter will be going to Banff. She's leaving next Monday on this week-long hike there, but maybe that's something too that she could come on and talk about her experience with that and the women that go on that hike every year, raise awareness around that one. But it's a very spiritual journey for her to go there. So yeah, I'll certainly let her know. We always wanted to do a mother-daughter podcast, so I guess this is the next best thing until we do that.
You know what we could do? We get you the two on. TJ, I can go away, just the two of you on the screen. But we could do that. We just watch.
We could be your participants, your viewing participants. We can send you questions in the chat bar. I love it.
All right, ladies, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you. We'll give her a go next week, TJ, and Annette will join us when she joins us. Keep well. Thank you. Gitamatsin.
Gitamatsin.
Gitamatsin.